All right, let's move on to a second conversation. For several weeks now, there have been reports of an impending nationwide protest by youths to express displeasure about the hardship in the country, reflected in a high cost of living, food scarcity, and unemployment. But security agencies say they would not condone any anarchy in the guise of nationwide protest. The Defense Headquarters says the planned nationwide protest has the potential of degenerating into anarchy and a reign of terror based on the situational analysis by the Military High Command. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Edward Buba, said this while briefing journalists on the operations of the armed forces on Thursday in Abuja. Also, Inspector General of Police Kaide Egbetokun says the inspector said the Nigeria police would respond to the 1st of August planned protest by some Nigerians in a most professional manner. Let's listen to both of them.
Others advocate for peaceful demonstrations. However, some individuals promote peaceful protest with violent undertones, raising concerns about their sincerity. We have our own history of violent protests in Nigeria, and I don't believe we have to look to other countries to know the dangers of unchecked demonstrations. We commend patriots who have withdrawn from the protest due to their apparent sinister motives and ignorance of those calling for violence. We note those who have spoken out against any form of protest at this critical juncture.
I will further say that while citizens have a right to peaceful protest, they do not have a right to mobilize for anarchy and unleash terror. It is easy to see that the contemporary context of the planned protest is to shadow the happenings in Kenya, which I must say is violent, and add that it remains unresolved.
Let's now speak with Dr. Tony Ofoyetan. He's a lawyer and also the Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. It's good to see you in person. We've always spoken virtually. So good to see you in person.
Thank you very much.
So, first, how do you react to this planned protests, especially the economic hardship driving the call for this protest?
You know, the truth is that an average Nigerian is aggrieved. An average Nigerian is not happy. I'm sure that even you sitting here now, you are not happy. Yes, I know that. You don't need to tell me because I know very well that the money you used to cook before has skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
Because we go to the market, so we see a lot of things. And that is the danger in this protest. I must tell you the truth. So, you see, unfortunately and painfully, the political class is putting this burden on the security community. You know, because of, you know, either failed policy or because of defective, political programs and the like. Now the whole thing and the burden is now falling on the security community. The IGP can no longer sleep. All the service chiefs can no longer sleep. All because of, you know, political policies, so to say. So at the end of the day, you still come back to blame the IGP.
When you say political policies, what do you mean?
Now, look, all this thing we are talking about is managing the defect of political failures. It's the political class that are in charge of governance. They're in charge of the economy, they're in charge of the political, in charge of everything. So it is when there is problem, we remember there's somebody called IGP, the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and all those stuff like that. If there is no problem, you won't even know them. You won't even know they exist. Now you see the way the army is talking, you see the way the police is talking. Now, and it is understandable, let me tell you the truth. Why they are, you know, concerned about the strike, the protest not taking place is because apart from the youths, even the adults are angrier, much more than the youth. So if you give them that template to go to the street, I can tell you that spontaneous reaction will fuel that protest much more than those that organized it were thinking or anticipating. And that is the true danger in it. Now, it's not as if there's anything wrong in protest, for goodness sake. Trafalgar Square is there in the UK, where you go, you vent, You can abuse anybody you want to abuse and get out of there. You feel relieved and all those stuff like that. Abuse the government, abuse government policies and the like. But one thing that is sure is that you are not going to destroy anything.
So
but if you look culturally,
that's what government is saying. Section 39 guarantees the right of every Nigerian to protest. But how important is it that we do not turn our country into Sudan?
That is what I'm saying, that culturally over the years, we've seen situations. Yes, we've seen peaceful protest. I must tell you the truth. We've seen peaceful protest in this country. And I must say that, previous, unfortunately and painfully, some of the previous Inspector General of Police, had also not done some of these things rightly. That's just the truth. Because now let me tell you how this thing works. If people are protesting, in most cases, they start peacefully. Carry placard with different inscriptions and the like, sing, could obstruct traffic and all those stuff like that. Do you know the point at which the violence starts? The point the violence would start is a point where you have a tear gas shot into the air or live ammunition shot into the air, and people start, running for their lives and all those stuff like that. Two things happen simultaneously at the same time. Those hoodlums and criminals, they take the advantage of the chaos and to do what? To perpetrate whatever they want to perpetrate. And also there's also a counter reaction now from those people that are protesting at the end of the day. Now you see, that actually in most cases leads to the violence we talk about. So if the police are able to say, okay, if this thing must hold, then what do? I've seen protests where policemen were in front. I was in school activism in my own days. The police PRO was in front. We were at the rear and insisted that no other person must join the protest. We marched to the governor's office and marched back. No other person joined the protest. We sang a lot of songs, came back, and it was so peaceful. So it depends. Look, if the police want to maintain that peace, they can. But the challenge is this. If you are talking about 776 local governments in the country, you are talking about 36 states, you are talking about strategic places all over the country at the same time, and you want to do it simultaneously for 10 days, for goodness sake, there is no security agency that can guarantee that it will never lead to violence, except we want to deceive ourselves.
So are we at a crossroad?
No, we are not at a crossroad. Okay. It is just a product of those people that are organizing this protest. Now, previously, it was faceless. Ebwano Gurua had come to say, okay, we need a leave from the Inspector General of Police to carry out this protest. And he did that letter on behalf of his client. End bad governance, whatever, also wrote to Wike in Abuja that they needed Eagle Square to be able to carry out the protest. Now that means that a face is coming to bear on these organizers.
Doctor, those are saying hashtags. I've seen hashtags like Revolution Now 2024. I've seen hashtags like Days of Rage. Do you think governments would sit down and look?
I won't sit down and look, even if I'm in government. That's just the truth. I won't sit down and look, because the reason is that the political aspect is there. Don't forget that. There are the true Nigerians that want to express their grievances and displeasure. So you see that these two people, if true Nigerians are coming to express their displeasure, good enough. But along the line, I can assure you that those political class that also want to take advantage of the grievances and the anger of the people will also join. The miscreants on the street will also join. So at the end of the day, you are going to have chaos. Now, if you look at what we call vulnerability analysis, you will see that as we speak now, there's high level of vulnerability because the risk is very high. What is the risk? The risk of an average Nigerian being part of this protest is high. Because we are all angry. We can't feed our families. We can't take care of our basic needs and all those stuff like that. And that is the reason why, for now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not against the protest. But talking about the timing, the tension is too high. It's too high. Look, it's like you are talking of a boiling water and you're asking somebody to put hand. At that point in time, there is nothing you can do about it. It will burn. Even if you want to use it to cure a wound, so to say.
But the president has asked Nigerians to exercise patience. He's implored them to give him more time. I mean, isn't that enough to show that the president is listening?
No, you see, that's why I said that the political class is actually giving the security community a lot of problems. You are talking about patience. The president is already there for more than 1 year. Now, what I expect the president to do is to take some fundamental, people-oriented and people-impacting, direct impacting, even if it's a short-term intervention, in such a manner that everybody will obviously see it. Someone who said, I'm going to give all coppers 100,000 naira. That was an intervention that everybody could see immediately. And the NYC, whatever, he said, I'm giving the X and Z amount of money. No, I'm just giving an example of what can be directly and immediately impacting.
But
the main problem for Nigeria now.
The president in the last 1 year has increased FAC allocation to states. And he has also, recently, just yesterday, there was also this reimbursement of funds to state governors. And that's the Nigeria Community Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus, NGCare program. Shouldn't that show that, okay, yes, the president is listening and he can indeed do more? And of course, I'm also very worried about something. The fact that we always think that the solution should directly come from the center. How do you charge state governors?
God bless you, my sister. God bless you for that. In short, you just took it from me. I agree with you that the federal government has not just, you are talking about FAC allocation. We are talking about palliative fund that have been released to state governors.
Yes. So where
I think an average of 2 billion. Now, shockingly and embarrassingly, many of the governors have not spent a dime out of it.
So why don't we continue to hold this?
Now look at it. The issue is this. It is not, the people cannot. It is the government at the center that should do what? Hold the governors accountable. Bring the governor, put the governors on the defense as it is now. Because look, there was a time we were talking about, people going to boggle warehouses and the like, only to discover that foods that were meant for COVID and all those stuff like that, given to governors, were stored in warehouses in anticipation of the next political year and all those stuff like that. The same thing has happened to this palliative now. So it is the government responsibility to now, look, the government has better information than you and I. So each governor you have given money, you know most probably what they have done with it.
Dr. Ofoyetan, is it realistic to say that federal government must hold governors accountable? Look at
they gave them the money.
Look at local government autonomy. You have some governors who are not happy with it and are saying that the federal government cannot decide for them. I think, and the majority of Nigerians think, it is on Nigerians to hold these governors accountable.
Look, Nigeria is a peculiar country. This is a country where if Mr. President, with due respect, want to impeach a governor, even if it is 3 people, 3 legislators has impeached a governor in this country before. So you are talking of power of control. In the world, Nigerian president is one of the most powerful presidents in the world, unapologetically. So if we are talking about the power of control, and you are saying you have given 2 billion, for example, to a governor to be able to put in palliative because of the harshness of the present economic policy, and knowing very well that the backlash will come back to you, and you are keeping quiet. If the backlash comes to you, then you should expect it.
As it is happening.
As it is happening, you should expect it. Because now the governors are not talking. The only thing governor will say is that the protest will not happen in my state. Who told you? What can you do? What can you do if it happens there? You only depend on the police. And the police is federal police.
Absolutely.
You depend on the military. The military is federal military. So what else can you do? Are you going to come out with your barbariga to prevent them from protesting? Do you have that might? It's only, you see, in most cases, the governors too are contributory. It's a major contributor to the problem we're having in this country. Because when this allocation comes from the federal level, if if they are able to judiciously expend what they are expected to expend at the state level, the people will not complain. It will never be this harsh.
So quickly, let's look at some of the demands from some of the groups which they have termed non-negotiable. Release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally and demilitarize the southeast. Also, revert petrol pump price to 100 naira per litre. Are these demands tenable?
They are tenable. Very, very tenable. Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration is a political incarceration. There's absolutely no reason why he should be there. Absolutely. And I say it unapologetically. Mr. President can do it. Let's leave the issue of the matter is now in court. Let the court take over and all those stuff like that. The Mr. President can order the release and enter a non-prosecute, for Nnamdi Kanu to be released. The only thing is give terms and conditions. Tell him, we want to release you on these X and Z terms and conditions. Okay. Make sure that there's no violence in your jurisdiction again. Forget about the issue of IPOB. Now be part and parcel of the unity of Nigeria. Ojukwu did worst. Ojukwu did worst. Ojukwu led a civil war against this nation. The same Ojukwu had presidential pardon in this nation. The same Ojukwu was instrumental to the formation of ABGA in this country. The same Ojukwu contested for the president of this country. So there's nothing spectacular about the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Because Nnamdi Kanu, as we speak now, government consciously or unconsciously has made Nnamdi Kanu the hero that he is. If not so, previous government handled the matter of Nnamdi Kanu in such a manner that today is, Nnamdi Kanu was not supposed to be, it was supposed to be inconsequential, just like any other, NGO leaders and all those stuff like that. But because he was arrested and all of a sudden on the pages of newspaper and all those stuff like that, today Nnamdi Kanu is already a leader in the Igbo race. So if that is the case, why don't you look for a political... Because at the end of the day, it will still come back to political situation, a solution. 100 naira per pump liter. There's nothing spectacular about it. It's as good as saying that put it at such a manner that it is easy for everybody to afford. Because that is the only palliative that all Nigerians cumulatively will enjoy. Everybody, rich or poor, will enjoy it. So if you are saying that, put it at 100 naira, all you need to do is all the loopholes that Nigerian NNPCL, are using to siphon money, block everything. As far as I'm concerned, the major revolution should be in NNPCL. All the leadership of NNPCL should be removed. I don't know why it's still keeping the MD of NNPCL. If we are having major problem like this, and Nigeria is an oil-based economy, so to say, and that is where we are having this major problem now. There's no reason under the earth for me and you to be buying petrol for 100 naira per liter. Absolutely. No reason. If you go to Niger Delta region there, the boys, they can refine everything you talk about with drum. Petrol or diesel or kerosene with drum. Now you are talking about a modular refinery. What stops the federal government from licensing some companies for men and compel NNPC to give them crude? We should have our own domestic quota. Now, apart from what the international oil companies will be having, what they do is they take the crude, go to their countries. What of we that are the owner of the crude? We should have our own domestic quota. It is with that domestic quota, you will feed the modular refinery, you will feed your own individual refinery, you feed Dangote refinery and all those stuff like that. But we are being pretentious. And at the end of the day, the whole thing is coming back to Mr. President. Those that are advising Mr. President are just being academical and being theoretical. It is not a rocket science to rule this country. It's just that there are so many greedy human beings that are putting that pressure on Mr. President. So at the end of the day, it's like, if I don't satisfy this one will complain. If I don't satisfy this, at the end of the day, now look at more than 200 million Nigerians are complaining.
Dr. Ofoyetan, very passionate and interesting conversation, but sadly we have to go. I'm sure we'll continue this conversation some other time. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Dr. Tony Ofoyetan. He's a lawyer and also the Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke WO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Good night, everyone.